The door to the House of Horror Stories has just opened. Come in and listen, for I, Lady Novelist, will be your narrator this evening. I'm one of the few female horror narrators on YouTube, so I hope you stick with me until the end, because the third and last story will really scare you and show you that even the ones closest to you cannot be trusted. Give me a like and subscribe to my channel, because I have original content that you will like for sure. I have always loved the rain. Ever since I was a little girl, there was something soothing about the way the droplets hit the roof, the rhythmic pitter-patter lulling me into a dreamlike state. But that night the rain became something else entirely. I had spent the evening curled up in my small farmhouse, nestled in the countryside, away from the city's noise. Thunder growled outside, and I relished the comforting weight of my blanket, my tabby cat Whiskers purring softly at my feet. I had drifted into sleep listening to the downpour, feeling cocooned in my little world. Then, at some ungodly hour, I woke up. At first I wasn't sure why. The rain still poured, the wind still howled, but then I heard it, knocking. A slow, deliberate rap against my front door. I froze. The sound was rhythmic, calculated, too controlled to be the wind, too persistent to be the settling of the house. It wasn't frantic, wasn't hurried, but patient, unnervingly patient. I held my breath, my body rigid beneath the covers. Something about the sound felt deeply, fundamentally wrong. It didn't belong. It wasn't just a sound, it was an intrusion. I swallowed hard. My hands were slick with sweat as I reached for my phone. 2:47 a.m. The knocking continued, never ceasing, never hesitating. I strained to hear beyond it, to detect the shuffle of feet, the murmur of a voice, anything to suggest a person was out there. But there was nothing, just a terrible, insistent knocking. Whiskers stirred at my feet, his ears twitching violently. He let out a low growl, his small body tense. The sound sent shivers down my spine. He had never done that before. I forced myself to sit up. My body felt sluggish, as if fear had sunk into my muscles, weighing me down. I didn't dare move toward the door, but the knocking seemed to be inside my head now, hammering into my skull, demanding my attention. It never changed in intensity. It wasn't a demand, it wasn't a plea, it was something else entirely, something watching. I gripped my phone and dialed 911, my voice barely a whisper as I explained the situation. The operator was calm, reassuring. Officers were on their way. The knocking continued. Then, as I heard the distant wail of sirens approaching, it stopped. Silence. I stayed by the door, barely breathing, as the flashing red and blue lights illuminated my front porch. 2 officers approached cautiously. One knocked, calling my name. Only then did I dare to peek through the peephole. Relief flooded me when I saw their uniforms. I flung open the door, my voice shaking as I explained everything. One officer searched the perimeter while the other stayed with me, jotting down notes. They found nothing. No footprints in the mud, no signs of forced entry, nothing to suggest that anyone had been there at all. "You said it stopped when we arrived," one of them asked, frowning. I nodded. "We'll keep a patrol nearby," he assured me. "Call if it happens again." I thanked them, locked the door behind them, and stood in my silent house. I didn't sleep for the rest of the night. Whiskers wouldn't leave my side, his body pressed against mine like he was trying to protect me. By morning I convinced myself it had been some prank. Maybe a lost traveler, maybe my imagination. I went about my morning routine, though an unsettling weight lingered in my chest. I decided to check on the barn. Sometimes the storm would knock loose one of the doors, and I didn't want my supplies getting soaked. The rain had stopped, leaving the air thick and humid. The muddy ground squelched under my boots as I made my way across the yard. The barn loomed ahead, its red paint darkened by the storm. I pulled the heavy doors open, the scent of damp hay and wood filling my nostrils. And then I saw it. Whiskers. He dangled from one of the wooden beams, a length of rope wound tightly around his small neck. I gasped, stumbling backward, my hands flying to my mouth. My stomach lurched violently. Tears welled in my eyes as I choked back a scream. Whiskers, my sweet loyal cat, was dead. Murdered. A chill spread through my body as I turned, my eyes darting around the barn. My breath came in ragged gulps. There was no sign of anyone, but I knew deep in my bones that I had not been alone last night. I ran back to the house, locking the doors, drawing the curtains. I called the police again, but they found nothing. No evidence, no leads, just a dead cat and a terrified woman with a story no one could prove. That night I didn't sleep. The rain returned, heavier this time, hammering against the windows. 1 month passed. I told myself I would leave. I searched for apartments, made plans to move into town, but somehow I never followed through. Something kept me here, whether it was stubbornness or fear I couldn't say. I avoided the barn. I got a new cat, but she never went near the doors at night. She would sit at the foot of my bed, her ears twitching, always watching the front of the house. The rain returned that night. The same thick, heavy storm that had soaked the world a month ago. And when I glanced at the clock, I felt a sinking weight in my stomach. 2:46 a.m. I gripped the blankets, my body tense. 2:47 a.m. I stopped breathing. The same patient rhythm, the same deliberate sound cutting through the downpour. My blood ran cold. I clenched my fists, my nails digging into my palms. The police never found anything. No evidence, no intruder, just a dead cat and a woman with a story. This time I didn't call them. This time I just sat there, staring at the door, waiting. And the knocking went on and on and on. I should never have wandered so far. I should have stayed near my hotel, where the streets were bright and the people bustled even at night. But curiosity had pulled me away. And now, at exactly 11:43 p.m., I was lost in a city that wasn't mine, with rain pouring down in relentless sheets, blurring street signs and turning sidewalks into slick mirrors. The neon lights of the main roads had long since faded, replaced by dark alleyways and crumbling buildings with shattered windows. I had been walking for 20 minutes, trying to retrace my steps, but nothing looked familiar anymore. My phone, clutched tightly in my damp fingers, had no signal. Then I felt it. A presence. The unmistakable sensation of being watched slithered down my spine, making my skin prickle beneath my soaked jacket. The rain pounded around me, drowning out the sound of my own footsteps. I swallowed hard and turned my head ever so slightly, just enough to glimpse over my shoulder. He was there, a man in a black coat, standing just far enough behind me to make me doubt myself. His collar was turned up against the rain, his black hat pulled low over his face. But even from a distance, I could feel his gaze, fixed, unwavering. I turned forward again, my breath hitching. Maybe he was just another lost traveler, trying to escape the downpour like I was. Maybe he wasn't following me at all. But as I picked up my pace, so did he. By the time the clock struck 11:52 p.m., panic had fully tightened in my chest. My damp clothes clung to my skin as I pushed forward, my boots splashing in the puddles that pooled in the cracks of the pavement. I turned sharply down another street, then another, weaving through unfamiliar roads in a desperate attempt to lose him. For a moment I thought I had succeeded. I risked another glance behind me. Empty. The street stretched in eerie silence, the rain blurring the distant glow of streetlights. No man in a black coat. No one at all. I exhaled shakily and pressed on, my steps quick but no longer frantic. I just needed to find my way back. My hotel wasn't far, I knew that much. Then I saw the park. It was a small thing nestled between rows of neglected buildings, its entrance framed by an old iron gate that creaked in the wind. Trees loomed inside, their skeletal branches reaching toward the sky, their wet leaves glistening under the flickering street lamp. I hesitated. I didn't remember passing a park before, but if I cut through, maybe I'd get back faster. Maybe I'd be safe. I stepped inside. At precisely 11:58 p.m., I moved quickly, my eyes darting between the pathways as I tried to spot an exit. The rain had slowed to a fine mist now, but the park was eerily silent, as if the world had paused just for me. The air was thick with a scent of wet earth and decaying leaves. Then I saw him, sitting on a bench beneath the dim glow of a broken lamp, facing the path I was on. His black coat hung heavy over his frame, water dripping from the brim of his hat. He hadn't run ahead of me. He hadn't appeared from the shadows. He had been waiting. A choked gasp slipped from my lips as his head tilted ever so slightly, acknowledging me. His face was pale, almost waxy, his eyes hollow pits of darkness. Rain trickled down his cheeks like tears. I bolted. At 12:05 a.m. I ran harder than I had ever run before, my breath coming in ragged, terrified gasps. The trees blurred past me, my soaked boots slipping on the damp stone paths. I could hear footsteps behind me. No, not footsteps, something else. A dragging sound, a slow, deliberate shuffle like heavy fabric sliding across the wet ground. I didn't dare look back. I burst through the park's exit, stumbling onto the main road. Lights, cars, people in the distance. The sight of civilization sent a wave of desperate relief through me. I sprinted toward the nearest intersection, my lungs burning. Only when I reached the bright-lit streets did I finally turn around. The park was still there, shrouded in mist. The bench sat empty beneath the broken lamp. No black coat, no hat, no man. I wasn't sure if that was better. By 12:15 a.m. I found my hotel, nearly collapsing against the front desk as I gasped out my room number to the confused receptionist. My hands trembled as I slid my keycard into the lock, barely managing to get the door open before I stumbled inside. I locked it. Twice. The rain had stopped. I stood there for what felt like hours, listening to my own frantic heartbeat. Finally, I forced myself to the window, peering down the street below. Nothing, just the empty sidewalks, the glistening asphalt reflecting the streetlights. No black coat, no figure standing in the rain waiting for me. Just the empty sidewalks, the glistening asphalt reflecting the streetlights. I let out a slow breath, my body sagging with exhaustion. Maybe I had imagined him. Maybe I had let paranoia turn an ordinary stranger into something sinister. I peeled off my wet clothes and climbed into bed, pulling the blankets up to my chin. The hotel room was warm, safe. I was safe. And then a soft knock at my door. I stopped breathing. It was slow, deliberate. I was 8 years old the night the rain changed everything. It had started as just another stormy evening. The sky had darkened early, the thick swollen clouds rolling in from the west, swallowing the last remnants of daylight. I was playing outside with the other children from our quiet little street, jumping between puddles, laughing as the rain soaked through our clothes. Then the thunder cracked. Loud, close, as if the sky itself had split open above us. We screamed, not from fear, but from the sheer thrill of it. Then, like a school of fish sensing danger, we scattered, each of us dashing towards the warm, safe glow of our respective homes. I ran through the downpour, my small feet splashing through muddy water, my breath coming in quick gasps as I neared my house. The porch light flickered as I bounded up the steps. My mother was standing in the doorway, waiting. It was 6:02 p.m. when I noticed it. Something was wrong. My mother's eyes looked off. Too wide, too bright, like she wasn't fully there. My father stood just behind her, still and silent, watching me as I stepped inside. The moment I crossed the threshold, I felt it. A shift in the air. The house smelled different. Damp, but not just from the rain. It was an earthy, decaying scent, something ancient and unnatural. "Go dry off, sweetheart," my mother said. Her voice was too sweet, too rehearsed. I hesitated. My father had yet to say a word. I nodded slowly and went to my room, peeling off my wet clothes, shivering even under my blanket. Something about my parents was wrong. It was 11:23 p.m. I couldn't sleep. The rain drummed against the window, steady and ceaseless. But beneath that sound I heard something else. Soft, slow, footsteps. Creaking along the wooden floor outside my room. I held my breath, pulling my blanket up to my chin. The sound moved toward my parents' room, stopping just outside their door. Then a whisper, too low to make out the words. I swallowed hard. Something in me, a child's curiosity, or maybe something deeper, more primal, forced me to move. I crept from my bed, my bare feet cold against the floorboards. I eased open my door and peeked into the dim hallway. My parents' bedroom door was ajar. A faint flickering light spilled out from inside. It was 11:37 p.m. I shouldn't have looked. Inside, my parents knelt on the floor, their hands joined, their heads bowed. Candles surrounded them, their wax pulling onto the wooden planks. An old book lay open between them, its yellowed pages filled with symbols I didn't understand. And then there was the other one. A shape stood beside them. It wasn't human. Its form flickered, shifting between shadow and substance. It had too many limbs, too many eyes, glowing like embers in the dim light. Its mouth moved, though no words came out. I wanted to scream, I wanted to run, but I did neither. Instead, I stumbled backward, my tiny fingers gripping the edge of the doorframe as I forced myself away, step by trembling step. The thing turned. Its eyes met mine. I slammed my door shut, my breath coming in shallow gasps. I pressed myself against it, listening. Nothing. No footsteps, no whispers, just the rain. It was 7 a.m. when I woke up, and everything was normal. My mother was making pancakes in the kitchen. My father was reading the newspaper at the table. The house smelled like coffee and syrup, the musty scent from the night before completely gone. I stared at them, my chest tightening. Had I imagined it? I didn't speak a word about what I had seen. Not that morning, not ever. But something in me had shifted, something I couldn't put into words. Later that day, I packed a small bag and told my parents I wanted to stay at my grandparents' house for a while. They smiled, almost relieved. They didn't ask why. The door of the House of Horror Stories closed today, but I expect you to join me next time. Once you subscribe to the channel, turn on notifications so you know exactly when I post the next horror episode. My plan is to prepare 2 episodes a week because I do not use artificial intelligence and YouTube is not my main job. I just have fun doing it. I'll let you sleep now, if you can. Good night.